Every 5 years, India does something absolutely massive. It holds a general election. And look, it's so much more than just people putting a ballot in a box. It's like this giant festival of democracy, a logistical puzzle that seems almost impossible, and it's the collective will of nearly 1 billion people. So how on earth does this colossal event actually work? Let's get into it.
It all really comes down to this one powerful image, right? The inked finger. In the middle of all the noise, the crowds, the hundreds of millions of voices, the whole system is built to make sure of one thing, that the real power, it rests with the individual. But how does that one little mark, that one vote, actually translate into choosing a government for the most populous country in the world?
Well, it starts with this number, 543. That's the magic number. It's the number of constituencies, or seats, for the Lok Sabha, which is India's lower house of parliament. The entire country is basically carved up into these 543 territories, and for any political party, the game is simple. Win as many of these as you possibly can.
And that really gets us to the big question here, doesn't it? In an election this huge, with so many people, what does it actually take for your vote, for one person's vote, to genuinely count? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the journey of a single vote, from the moment a voter registers to the final act of representation.
But before we can follow that vote, we gotta understand the ground it's all built on. See, this isn't just about being the biggest. It's about a single core idea that makes the whole thing possible, and more importantly, fair. And that idea is right here, universal adult franchise. It sounds kind of formal, but it's a beautifully simple concept. It means one person, one vote, one value. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, or where you come from. When you step into that voting booth, your voice carries the exact same weight as everyone else's. It's the very bedrock of political equality. Okay, so the main principle is equality. Got it. But how does the system actually make sure the right people are voting? And crucially, that they're only voting once? Well, it all comes down to proving who you are, establishing a voter's identity. So, how does this work for you, the actual voter? First things first, your name has to be on the official voter list, and that list is constantly being updated. Then you get your election photo identity card, or EPIC for short. But hey, the system's got some flexibility. If you don't have your card on you, other official IDs can work too. The goal here is pretty straightforward. Make sure every eligible person can vote, but only once. All right, so you're in. Your identity is confirmed. You're at the polling booth. Now for the big part, the choice. Who are you actually voting for? And what do you really need to know about them before you make that call? And this leads to a question I hear all the time, and it's a fascinating one. I mean, think about it. You need a degree for most professional jobs, right? So shouldn't the people in charge of running the entire country also have some kind of specific educational qualification? The answer, well, it might not be what you think. And this slide just lays out the logic perfectly, doesn't it? For a normal job, a degree shows you have a certain skill set. But for a politician, the main qualification is something totally different. It's about understanding people's problems and actually representing their interests. And the ultimate boss, it's not a manager. It's the voters who get to give a performance review every 5 years. But hey, just because there's no degree requirement doesn't mean you're voting blind. Absolutely not. The system is designed to give you, the voter, the power of information. Every single candidate has to publicly declare any serious criminal cases against them. They have to lay out all their assets and liabilities, and yes, their educational qualifications too. You, the voter, get all that info, and you get to decide what matters most to you. Okay, now we get to the really visible part, the part everyone sees and talks about, the campaign. This is where the parties and candidates go all out to make their case, all leading up to that final moment of truth on voting day. Election campaigns are all about powerful messaging, often captured in just a few words. Take this classic slogan from 1971, Garibi Hatao, which means remove poverty. It was so simple, so direct, and it tapped into a huge concern for millions of people at the time. It really shows how the most successful campaigns can take complex policies and boil them down to one powerful emotional idea. So after all those weeks of campaigning, it all comes down to this really simple, secure process. First up, your ID gets checked against the list. Next, you go cast your vote on the electronic voting machine, the EVM. Then an official applies that famous indelible ink to your finger. And finally, all the EVMs are sealed up tight and stored safely until counting day. Simple, clear, and secure. So the system for casting a vote, it's pretty solid. The process itself is fair and secure. But does that automatically guarantee fair representation?
That's a whole different ballgame, and it points to some deeper challenges inside the political system itself. And this brings up a really crucial point. We've got a fair system for how we vote, but what about who we get to vote for in the first place? That choice is pretty much decided by the political parties. And if the parties themselves aren't being run democratically, well, that can really limit the quality of the choices we have. This is one of the biggest issues, and it's called a lack of internal democracy. Basically, in a lot of parties, all the power is stuck right at the very top. So the huge decisions, like who even gets to be a candidate, are made by a tiny group of leaders. It's kind of like a company where only the CEO makes every single decision, and none of the employees have a say. Over time, that can create a huge disconnect.
And that leaves us with this one last, really important question to chew on. India has built this incredible, world-class system for running free and fair elections, giving every single citizen a voice. But as long as the internal workings of the political parties stay so centralized, is the promise of true representation actually being fulfilled? It's the final piece of this giant democratic puzzle, and it's a question for every single voter to think about.